Marcus packed his fancy shirts into a suitcase, barely glancing at me. "The kids will understand," he said. "They'll love Amanda. She's great with children." I stood in the doorway, watching the man I had been married to for 15 years pack up his life. His words made my stomach turn, but I kept my face calm. "They're only 8 and 10, Marcus. They barely know her." He shrugged, carefully placing his expensive watches into a case. "Kids adapt. Besides, they'll have to. We're moving in together next week. My name is Emma. I'm 38 years old, and my husband was leaving me and our kids for his 26-year-old yoga instructor." But I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging him to stay. Instead, I was thinking about the phone call I got yesterday from our family lawyer. "And the divorce?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "When are you filing?" Marcus smirked. "No need for all that, Em. Amanda and I think we should keep things simple. No lawyers, no splitting money. Let's just move on." Of course he wanted that, because he didn't know about my father's trust fund. He had no idea that his plans were about to fall apart. "Whatever you think is best," I said, watching him zip up his bags. He paused at the doorway, eyeing me suspiciously. "You're taking this better than I expected." I smiled, thinking about the bank statement arriving tomorrow. I've learned to adapt. 12 hours earlier, I had sat in Mr. Thompson's office, our lawyer, as he explained something that changed everything. "Your father was a smart man, Emma," he said, pulling out a thick folder. "Before he passed, he created a trust fund for you and your children, with some very special rules." I remember my father's words before he died. "Always have a backup plan, Emma. Always be 3 steps ahead." The trust fund becomes active if your husband tries to abandon his financial responsibilities to your children. Mr. Thompson explained. "Your father wanted to make sure his grandchildren were protected." I thought about how Marcus always controlled our money, how he gave me an allowance while he spent freely on himself. "And Marcus doesn't know about this?" I asked. Mr. Thompson smiled. "Your father was clear. Marcus was never supposed to know unless he triggered the conditions. And since he's been emptying accounts and trying to sell property without your consent, it's time." Now, I watched Marcus load his bags into his shiny sports car, completely unaware that by tomorrow, his bank accounts would be frozen. "I'll call you about seeing the kids," he said, closing the trunk, "once Amanda and I are settled." Upstairs, our children, Lily and James, watched their father leave. Lily pressed her small hand against the window, confused and hurt. James stood behind her, his face angry. No 10-year-old should have to feel that. "Take care, Marcus," I said softly. He drove away without looking back. He thought he was heading toward a perfect new life. But by tomorrow morning, the money he'd been secretly using to pay for Amanda's luxury apartment would be gone. I walked back inside and climbed the stairs to my children's rooms. They needed me now more than ever. But I wasn't worried about our future. My father had made sure we would be okay. Lily looked up at me, tears in her eyes. Is Daddy really going to live with his friend now? I sat on her bed, pulling both her and James close. "Yes, sweetie. But we're going to be okay. Better than okay." "How do you know?" James asked, trying to sound tough. I thought about the trust fund, about everything my father had planned to protect us. I thought about Marcus's face when he realized he had lost everything. "Because your grandpa made sure of it," I said, hugging them tighter. "And tomorrow, Daddy is going to learn what happens when someone forgets what really matters." That night, as my children slept, I sat in my office, getting ready for what came next. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Amanda thinks we should take the kids to Disneyland next month. Show them how fun their new life can be." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my email. Mr. Thompson had sent me tomorrow's schedule. While Marcus dreamed about vacations, a team of financial experts was already tracking every bad decision he had made. The kids would be okay. I would make sure of it. And as for Marcus, he was about to learn that some choices have consequences. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 7:15 a.m. Marcus's name flashed on the screen, but I ignored it. By the 4th call, I could imagine his panic. His credit cards weren't working, his bank accounts were locked, and all his secrets were coming out. I was making breakfast for the kids when the front door burst open. Marcus stormed in, his face red with anger. "What did you do?" he shouted, waving his phone. "Every account is frozen, even my personal ones." Lily stopped eating her pancakes. James gripped his fork tightly. I stayed calm. pouring more orange juice. Kids, why don't you eat in the playroom? Mom needs to talk to Dad. Once they were gone, I turned to Marcus. Rough morning. Fix this, he demanded. Amanda and I were supposed to put a deposit on our new house today. The realtor is waiting. I leaned against the counter, remembering how he had always brushed off my concerns about money. I'm not the one you need to talk to. Our lawyer, Mr. Thompson, is handling everything now. What does that old fossil have to do with this? The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. I opened it to find Mr. Thompson, looking sharp in his charcoal suit, holding a thick folder. Mrs. Sullivan, he greeted me. And Mr. Sullivan, good. This saves me a phone call. Marcus frowned. What's going on? Please have a seat, Mr. Thompson said, placing his briefcase on the table. We have a lot to discuss about your financial decisions. My finances are none of your business, Marcus snapped. Actually, Mr. Thompson said, opening his folder, they became my business the moment you violated the rules of the Sullivan Family Trust. Marcus's face turned pale. What trust? The one Emma's father created before he passed away. It has been watching your financial activities for the past 15 years, Mr. Thompson explained, and it activates when a spouse tries to abandon their financial responsibilities to the children. Marcus dropped into a chair, his confidence fading. That's impossible. I would have known. Would you? I asked. You always told me not to worry about complicated money stuff. You never even read the documents. Mr. Thompson pulled out some papers. Let's review your actions. Last month, you emptied 3 joint accounts. You tried to sell properties that belonged to the trust. You made large payments to an outside party. Those were business expenses. Marcus interrupted. The rent for Amanda's apartment wasn't a business expense, I said. Neither was the car or the jewelry you bought her. Marcus's eyes widened. You knew. I knew everything, I said. My dad taught me to always be prepared. Mr. Thompson continued. The trust has rules about financial misconduct. All joint assets are frozen. Your personal accounts are under investigation. The properties you tried to sell are protected by the trust. You can't do this, Marcus muttered. We already have, Mr. Thompson replied, pulling out another document. Your actions triggered the trust's rules. All assets will be managed by the trust until your divorce is finalized. Divorce? Marcus jumped up, knocking over his chair. I told you. We were keeping this informal. That's not an option anymore, Mr. Thompson said. The trust requires a legal divorce to protect the children's interests. I heard a small sound and turned to see James and Lily peeking from the hallway. Their faces were filled with worry. Perhaps we should continue this at my office, Mr. Thompson suggested. 2 p.m. today. Your presence is required, Mr. Sullivan. Marcus looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. I saw fear in his eyes. Emma, we can fix this. Amanda and I will figure something out. I thought about all the times he had ignored me, controlled me, made me feel small. No, Marcus, we can't. You made your choice. Now you have to live with it. After they left, Marcus, probably to explain to Amanda why their house wasn't happening, and Mr. Thompson to prepare for our meeting, I sat with my kids in the playroom. Is Dad in trouble? James asked. Dad made some bad choices, I said, pulling them close. But Grandpa made sure we'd be okay. Even though Grandpa is in heaven, Lily asked. I smiled, thinking about my father's wisdom, especially because he's in heaven. He loved us so much, he made sure we'd always be taken care of. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. This isn't fair. Marcus promised me that house. I blocked her number without replying. The trust fund hadn't just protected us. It had revealed who Marcus and Amanda truly were. They thought I was weak. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. 6 months passed, bringing changes I never expected. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly, backed by the trust fund's legal team. Marcus's attempts to hide assets crumbled under forensic accounting. Amanda disappeared the moment she realized there would be no luxury house, no lavish lifestyle, no easy path to wealth. I sat in Mr. Thompson's office, reviewing the final settlement papers. The trust fund hadn't just protected us. It had revealed years of Marcus's financial deceptions. Your father would be proud, Mr. Thompson said, sliding the last document across his desk. He always said you were stronger than anyone knew. I wish he could see the kids now, I replied, thinking of how well they'd adjusted. They're finally healing. The transformation in my children had been remarkable. Once the initial shock wore off, they began to thrive. James joined the school baseball team, his confidence growing with each game. Lily discovered a passion for art, filling our home with bright paintings that somehow made everything feel lighter. Marcus's weekly visits became monthly, then sporadic. His promises of Disneyland and grand adventures faded into rushed dinners and distracted conversations. The children noticed, but instead of breaking them, it made them stronger. "Mom," James said one evening after a particularly short visit with his father, "I think I understand why Grandpa made that trust thing." "Oh?" I looked up from my book, curious. He knew sometimes grown-ups make bad choices. He wanted to make sure we'd be okay anyway. Out of the mouths of babes, the doorbell rang one Sunday afternoon while we were baking cookies. Marcus stood there, looking deflated in a way I'd never seen before. Gone were the designer clothes and expensive watch. He looked ordinary. "Can we talk?" he asked. I hesitated, but the kids were upstairs. 5 minutes. He shuffled into the kitchen, eyeing the familiar space like a stranger. "Amanda's gone," he said finally, "moved to California with some tech entrepreneur." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, though we both knew I wasn't. I was stupid, Emma. I threw away everything that mattered for nothing. I thought about responding, about pointing out all the ways he'd hurt us. But what was the point? His consequences weren't my responsibility anymore. "The kids miss you," I said instead. "When you do show up." He flinched. "I know. It's hard seeing them, seeing what I gave up." "They're not a punishment, Marcus. They're your children." He nodded, running a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered from our early days. "Your father, he was smarter than I ever gave him credit for. That trust fund, he knew, didn't he? He knew someone like me might come along. He knew people make choices," I corrected. "He just made sure those choices couldn't hurt his grandchildren." As if on cue, Lily's laughter drifted down from upstairs, followed by James's playful shout. The sound seemed to hit Marcus like a physical blow. "I'd like to do better," he said quietly. "Be better. For them." "That's your choice to make," I replied, "just like all the others." After he left, I found my father's old photo on the mantel. He was smiling, one arm around me at my college graduation. He'd already been sick then, but his eyes were sharp, determined. "You were right, Dad," I whispered. "About everything." Today, a year after Marcus first walked out, our lives have found a new rhythm. The trust fund ensured we kept our home. The children's education would be secure, and we had the freedom to rebuild without fear. Marcus, he's trying in his way. Weekly dinners with the kids, showing up to James's baseball games, attending Lily's art shows. It's not the family we were, but maybe it's the family we needed to become. I've started my own business, something I'd always dreamed of but never dared pursue under Marcus's controlling influence. The children are thriving in ways that amaze me daily. James recently won his first baseball trophy, and Lily's art was featured in the school gallery. Last week, I found a letter from my father tucked away in his old desk, written days before he died, saved for when I might need it most. My dearest Emma, by the time you read this, you'll understand why I set up the trust the way I did. Not just to protect you, but to remind you of your own strength. Sometimes the best way to love someone is to make sure they have the freedom to stand on their own. You've always been stronger than you knew. Now the world will see it too. Love, Dad. I keep that letter framed in my office now, next to the children's photos and Lily's brightest paintings. It reminds me that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better. Marcus's choices didn't break us. Instead, they revealed just how unbreakable we really were. And for that, strangely enough, I'm grateful. Because in the end, my father was right. The trust fund wasn't just about money. It was about giving us the strength to choose our own path, to build something better from the ashes of what was lost. And that's exactly what we did.